know, that's a hell of a song. Freedom has meant a lot of things to a lot of people over the years, me included. My name's Pete Seeger. I was born in New York City in 1919. So I guess that makes me 88 years old. Now I live in upstate New York. Beacon's the town, along my beloved Hudson River. I lived there with my wife of more than 60 years, Toshi. You know, without her, I'd be nothing. World wouldn't turn, nor the sun shine. So I guess you're wondering, what's a man at 88 years old doing looking like this? Well, this is the body I had back in 1955. 36 years old. Not bad. I never exercised much, except maybe marching for a cause or running from the company men. Anyway, I figured it'd be a little bit easier for you to see me like this, since that's what this is all about. See, in the 1950s, the government, yours and mine, was looking into the lives of actors and musicians and all kinds of artists because of the Red Scare. Because in the 1950s, communism, which once had just been a kind of a philosophy of living together in common, it had become quite unacceptable because of Joe Stalin over in Russia or the Soviet Union. See, Stalin's version of communism was tyrannical and oppressive and violent and downright wrong. And just about everyone I know denounced Stalin. We considered ourselves more socialist in outlook. But you know, I think there's one thing we could all agree on, whether you're socialist or Democrat or Republican, and that is that the witch hunt put on by the House Committee on Un-American Activities was completely against our Constitution. Now, you know, some people called before the committee name names. You know, name names or lose your living, your ability to create your place in the world. Some people, I think, felt that they didn't have the tools or the strength to stand up to the committee. Other people pled the fifth. Me, I stood behind the First Amendment, my right to assemble freely and to associate with whomever I liked. Now, the committee wanted to ask me what I was doing. I'm a folk singer. Not much more to me than singing songs. I've enjoyed telling stories my entire life. Stories through song, mostly. True stories, mostly. Now, every now and again, I had to make up a song because, you know, some folks, they just won't open up their mind to the truth if you try to tell them straight away. Anyway, the only thing I know is that a good song can only do good. And I'm proud of the songs I've sung. And I've sung to anybody who would listen, Republican, Democrat, and Independent. Now, the question before the committee is, did I have the right to sing those songs? Did I have a right to sing them wherever I wanted? Did I have a right to sing them with whomever I wanted?
When and where were you born, Mr. Seeger?
I was born in New York City in 1919.
And what is your profession or occupation?
Well, I've done many things in my life. My profession is a student of American folklore, but I make my living as a folk singer, which is kind of damning in some people's eyes.
Has New York been your headquarters for a considerable period of time?
Oh, no, very rarely. I was born here, and after school I was here for a year or two, maybe more, and then after the war I was here briefly, and I got back to the country, which is all I've always felt more at home there.
Are you saying you served in the armed forces of the United States?
Yes, sir, for about 3.5 years.
Can you tell the committee what period of time you served?
I went in July 1942, and I mustered out in December of 1945.
Did you achieve the rank of officer?
No. I became a PFC after about a year, and then right before I got out, I was a T5, which is the equivalent of a corporal's rating. It was a long, hard pull.
Mr. Seeger, prior to your entry into the service in 1942, did you practice your profession in the area of New York?
Well, you know, it's kind of hard to call it a profession. I never really intended to be a musician. Now, I'm glad I am one. It's a very honorable profession. But you know, I always thought I was going to be a newspaper man. I mean, when I first got out of school...
Will you please answer the question?
I'm trying to explain that it really wasn't my intention to become a musician. I just picked up a little change at it.
Did you practice your profession?
I sang for people, yes, before World War II and as early as 1925.
And upon your return from the service in December of 1945, did you continue to practice your profession?
Yes, I did. I continued singing, and I expect I always will. You know, the sad thing is, I've been singing against war for almost 75 years now. There's a couple of songs I would have liked to sing for that committee. Waist Deep in the Big Muddy. That song could be about just about any situation. When I sang it during Vietnam, President Johnson wasn't real happy with me. And I don't think our current president would like it much either.
Well, it was back in 1942. They were members of a good platoon. They were on maneuvers in Louisiana one night by the light of the moon. The captain told them to ford the river, and that's how it all began. They were knee-deep in the big muddy when the big fool said to push on. The sergeant said, "Sir, are you sure this is the best way back to the base?" "Sergeant, go on, I forded this river about a mile above this place. It'll be a little soggy, but just keep slogging and we'll soon be on dry ground." They were waist deep in the big muddy when that big fool said to push on. It wasn't good. The sergeant said, "With all this equipment, no man will be able to swim." "Sergeant, don't be a nervous Nelly," the captain said to him. "All we need is a little determination, and follow me, I'll lead on." They were neck deep in the big muddy when that big fool said to push on. It was bad. Very bad. All at once the moon clouded over. They heard a gurgling cry. A few seconds later, the captain's helmet was all that floated by. The sergeant said, "Turn around, men, I'm in charge from now on." And they just made it out of the big muddy with the captain dead and gone. Well, they stripped and dived and found his body stuck in the old quicksand. I guess he didn't know that the water was deeper than the place he'd once before been. You see, another stream had joined the big muddy about a half-mile from where he'd gone. And they were lucky to get out of the big muddy when that big fool had to push on. Well, I'm not gonna point any morals, I'll leave that for yourselves. Maybe you're still walking and you're still talking and you'd like to keep your health. But every time I read the paper, them old feelings come along. We are waist deep in the big muddy and some big fool says to push on. Know what I mean? Waist deep in the big muddy and some big fool says to push on. Waist deep in the big muddy and some big fool says to push on. We are waist deep, neck deep, soon even a tall man will be over his head. We are waist deep in the big muddy and some big fool says to push on.
Another song that Woody and I did many times. Oh, sorry. Woody's Woody Guthrie. I'm sure you know who he is. He's Arlo's dad. Anyway, Woody was a gifted writer of many songs. Me, I'm just a singer of other folk songs mostly. Trying to make sense of life through a banjo. Oh, anyway, Woody and I did this one as a duet mostly.
Well, I'm just a typical American boy from a typical American town. I believe in God and Senator Dodd and in keeping old Castro down. But when it came my time to serve, I knew better dead than red. And when I got to my old draft board, brother, this is what I said. Sarge, I'm only 18, I got a ruptured spleen, and I always carry a purse. I got eyes like a bat, and my feet are flat, and my asthma's getting worse. Oh, think of my career, my sweetheart dear, and my poor old invalid aunt. Because I ain't no fool, and I'm a-going to school, and I'm a-working in a defense plant. I got a dislocated disc and a racked up back. I'm allergic to flowers and bugs. And when the bombshells hit, I get epileptic fits, and I'm addicted to 1,000 drugs. I got the weakness woes, I can't touch my toes, I can hardly reach my knees. When the enemy comes close to me, I'll probably start to sneeze. Sarge, I'm only 18, got a ruptured spleen, and I always carry a purse. I got eyes like a bat, and my feet are flat, and my asthma's getting worse. Oh, think of my career, my sweetheart dear, and my poor old invalid aunt. Besides, I ain't no fool, and I'm going to school, and I'm working in the defense plant. I hate showing lie, and I hope he dies, but I think you've got to see that someone's got to go over there, and that someone isn't me. I wish you well, Sarge, give 'em hell, kill me 1,000 or so. And if you ever get a war without blood and gore, well, I'll be the first to go. Sarge, I'm only 18, I got a ruptured spleen, and I always carry a purse. I got eyes like a bat, and my feet are flat, and my asthma's getting worse. Oh, think of my career, my sweetheart dear, and my poor old invalid aunt. Besides, I ain't no fool, and I'm going to school, and I'm working in a defense plant.
The committee has information obtained in part from the Daily Worker, which indicates that over a period of time, especially since December of 1945, you have taken part in a number of entertainment features. I have here a photostatic copy of the June 20th, 1947 issue of the Daily Worker. In a column entitled "What's On" appears this advertisement. Tonight, Bronx. Hear Pete Seeger and his guitar at Allerton Section Housewarming. May I ask you whether or not the Allerton Section was a section of the Communist Party?
Sir, I refuse to answer that question, whether that quote comes from the New York Times or the Vegetarian Journal.
Well, I don't think there's any more authoritative document in regards to the Communist Party than its own official organ, the Daily Worker.
He hasn't answered the question, and he merely said he wouldn't answer whether the article appeared in the New York Times or some other magazine. I ask you to direct the witness to answer the question.
I direct you to answer the question.
Sir, I feel this whole line of questioning
You
is...
have only been asked one question so far, Mr. Seeger.
I am not going to answer any question as far as my association, my philosophical or religious or political beliefs, or how I voted in any election or any other private affair. I believe it is improper for this committee to ask any American such questions, especially under such compulsion as this. I will be glad to tell you about songs I have sung or about my life if you would like to ask me about that.
Has the witness declined to answer this specific question?
He said that he's not going to answer any question about any names or anything.
He was directed to answer the question.
I have before me a copy of the April 30th, 1948 issue of the Daily Worker, which carries under the same title of What's On, an advertisement of a May Day rally for peace, security, and democracy. The advertisement then states, "Are you in a fighting mood? Then attend the May Day rally." Expert speakers are stated to be slated for the program, and then follows a statement, "Entertainment by Pete Seeger." At the bottom appears this, "Auspices Essex County Communist Party," and at the top, "Tonight, Newark, New Jersey." Did you lend your talent to the Essex County Communist Party on the occasion that's spoken of in this issue of the Daily Worker?
I have already given my answer, sir, and the same answer.
The same answer. In other words, you mean that you declined to answer because of the reasons stated before?
I gave my answer, sir.
What is your answer?
You see, sir, I feel it is completely...
What is your answer?
I will tell you what my answer is. I feel that in my whole life, I have never done anything of any conspiratorial nature, and I greatly resent the implication of being called before this committee, that somehow my beliefs, or where I have performed some of my songs, or any of my other activities make me any less of an American from you, Mrs. Scherer, or you, Mr. Walter. I love my country very dearly.
And why don't you try making a little contribution toward the preservation of its institutions?